After lending my tools to my neighbor for months, I asked for them back. He slammed his shed door and said, "They're mine now. You're forgetful. You gave them to me." He stared me down like I was nothing. That night, I saw something through his basement window, and what I did next he never saw coming. I live in Bloomington, Indiana. Small town feel, even though we've got the university and traffic's gotten worse over the years. Most of the houses on our street were built in the late 80s. It's a quiet block, not perfect, but you know the type. People rake their leaves, wave from driveways, pretend they care how your weekend was. I've been here for 16 years. Raised both my kids in this house. Got married. Got laid off once, got rehired. All from this same damn house. I don't talk to many of my neighbors, not really. We nod, we small talk. That's it. 2 years ago, Rick moved in next door. Divorced guy. Probably early 50s, always out front fixing something on his truck or mowing the lawn shirtless with headphones on. Real Midwestern handyman vibe. At first, he was alright. Brought over a six-pack once when my son graduated high school. Asked about who did our driveway seal coating. All normal stuff. Then he started borrowing things. It started casual. First, my drill. Just for a couple holes, he said, holding it like he knew exactly how to use it. I didn't think twice. Then a week later, he asked for the circular saw. Then hedge trimmers. Then my socket set, the nice one, the one my dad gave me, with the little engraving on the handle that says "To Matt from Dad." He always said, "Just for the weekend." I always said, "Sure." Weeks turned into months. I'd see the stuff in his garage sometimes, his doors usually open. Once I saw my drill on his workbench, battery plugged in. I told myself I'd grab it next time. But I didn't. Until that Saturday. I was in my own garage trying to mount a new shelf my wife wanted. Reached for the drill. Not there. That's when it hit me, none of it was. I didn't have any of my damn tools. So I walked next door. He answered the door slow. Beer in hand, wearing flip-flops and one of those ratty no-fear shirts. I told him I needed my tools back, said it casual, like I expected him to say, "Sure thing." Instead, he said, "What tools?" I blinked. "The drill, saw, socket set." He cut me off. "You gave those to me." I thought he was joking, so I laughed. "What?" "You said I could have them. Back in March. You said you didn't need him anymore." "That never happened. I never said anything like that." "You're remembering wrong, Matt," he added, taking a sip of beer. Then he stepped back into the shed and slammed the door shut, like that was the end of it. And then he gave me this look. "No es mal, no es palegi." Just this blank, smug stare, like he dared me to say something. It made my blood boil. I didn't even say a word. I turned around and walked back home. I was shaking by the time I got inside. My wife asked what happened, and I didn't know what to say. I couldn't explain it. I felt small, humiliated, like some damn fool who got tricked in his own neighborhood. That night, I was sitting in the backyard drinking. I couldn't stop thinking about it, about that look he gave me, like I didn't matter. Then I noticed something. His basement lights were on. I could see them through that little window near the foundation, the kind that's just above the ground. I walked over toward the fence, leaned a little closer, and there it was, my socket set. I could see it clear as day on the bench near the window. The blue plastic case. The sticker residue on the corner. It was mine. And the drill? Sitting right next to it, battery plugged in, like he'd just been using it. That's when the anger really started. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept thinking, this guy knows what he did. And he thinks I won't do anything about it. So I started planning. Carefully. Quietly. He had a habit. Every Thursday night, he'd leave around 6:30 and not get back until after midnight. Said something about poker night over in Spencer. I knew because he bragged about it the first year he moved in. The following Thursday, I waited until he left. Watched his truck pull out from the side window. Gave it 20 more minutes. Then I went out back, hopped the fence, and checked the basement window. It wasn't locked. The basement window was old. One of those crank-open types with a rusted handle. I slid my fingers under the edge and pushed gently. It creaked a little, but it opened. He had no screen.
No sensor.
Nothing. It was just open. I climbed down into the basement. The air smelled like dust and old beer. He had workbenches, tools, stacks of plastic bins, junk, mostly. But in the far corner I saw it. The socket set. My drill.
My saw.
Everything. I opened the blue case. Every socket was still there. The engraving on the handle was still clear. To Matt from Dad. No way in hell he could say this wasn't mine. I started gathering everything. Quiet, careful. I put the drill in my backpack. Slid the socket set in next. Took the saw and hedge trimmers too. I was almost out the window when I spotted something else on his workbench. A folder. Thick, yellowed. It had my last name on it. I froze. It didn't make sense. I reached over and flipped it open. Inside were printouts, screenshots of my Facebook, pictures of my house from different angles, even an old article from the Herald Times about a neighborhood council meeting I'd been quoted in. Notes scribbled in the margins. My name. My wife's name. Even my kids. He'd written stuff like gets home from work 5:45 and garage unlocked some weekends. I stood there, my heart pounding. I hadn't felt scared of Rick before. Pissed?
Yeah.
But not scared. This was something else. This was obsession. Why would he keep a file like that? I put the folder back exactly where it was and got the hell out through the window. Didn't run, didn't look back. Just climbed the fence, got inside my house, and locked everything. My wife was asleep. I didn't wake her. The next morning, I made coffee, like usual. She asked if I was feeling better. I told her I got my tools back. She smiled and said, "Good." He had no right. I didn't tell her about the folder.
I didn't know what to do about it yet.
That weekend, Rick didn't mention the tools. Didn't come over, didn't even make eye contact when we were both outside. Just acted normal. Too normal. The next Monday, I got home from work and found a note taped to my front door. Hope you found what you were looking for. Maybe stay out of places you're not welcome.
No signature.
Just that. I kept the note. Still have it. That's when I realized it wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep much after that note. I started locking the doors twice. Checked windows at night. Installed a camera over the garage. I didn't tell my wife everything, just said Rick was acting off. She already thought he was creepy, so she didn't push. 3 days after the note, I got a call from a blocked number while I was at work. I let it go to voicemail. When I played it back, it was a man's voice, low, kind of forced calm. "You made a mistake. That stuff wasn't yours. You're lucky I don't call the cops. Don't do it again." That was it. I saved the voicemail and called the police. Told them my neighbor had some of my property, and now he was threatening me. The officer came out, took a statement. Asked if I had proof. I showed him the socket with my name engraved on it. Showed the security cam footage of Rick walking into my yard months ago with the drill. The cop nodded along, but I could tell he wasn't going to do anything serious. "This is a civil matter," he said. "You can press charges, but you'll need to go through small claims court if you want any real resolution. Best to avoid contact for now." I asked, "What about the voicemail?" "Technically, it's not a threat. It's vague. You'll need more than that." I was furious. I wasn't just dealing with a liar. I was dealing with someone who prepared for this. Who thought about it. Who collected things with my name on them and made notes like a stalker. That night, I sat in the living room staring at the folder I had taken from his basement. I didn't tell the cop about it. I couldn't explain how I found it without admitting I broke in. And now I was stuck. Until I noticed something I'd missed before. In the corner of one of the pages was a name, C. Danvers. It was underlined, with Spoke 3X written beside it. I didn't know a Danvers, but the name stuck out. I checked Facebook, then LinkedIn, then Google. Finally found a Christopher Danvers. Lived 2 streets over. Retired cop, according to a local newspaper clipping from a few years back. I sent him a message. Polite. Casual. Just asked if he knew Rick, said I had a few questions. He replied the next day. Said, "Come by. I've got something you need to see." Danvers lived in a 1-story brick ranch house with an American flag and a retired, Not expired bumper sticker on his mailbox. I showed up around noon on a Saturday. He met me at the door in jeans and a white undershirt.
Big guy.
Looked like he used to be someone you didn't mess with. You the neighbor? He asked. I nodded.
Yeah.
Rick's neighbor. He didn't shake my hand, just opened the door wider and said, Come in. His living room smelled like old cigars and coffee. He walked me to a table by the window and sat across from me. Tell me what he did.
So I did.
All of it. The tools.
The lie.
The folder. The voicemail. Everything but the break-in. When I was done, he nodded like he'd heard this kind of thing before. You're not the first, he said. I blinked. What? He reached into a drawer and pulled out a thin file folder. Inside were printed emails, a few handwritten notes, and 2 photos of Rick's house. Guy's been running low-level cons for years. Tools, lawn equipment, sometimes even mail. He gets friendly, borrows something, waits, then says it was a gift. If you push, he plays it calm. Then he plays it legal. Why hasn't anyone stopped him? Danvers scoffed. Cops don't care. It's petty. Nobody wants to go to court over a $100 hedge trimmer. Most folks just walk away. I told him about the folder with my name, the schedules, the notes. That's when he got quiet. He didn't do that with the others, Danvers said. You're the first I've heard about with tracking. That's different. I nodded.
Yeah.
It felt different. Then Danvers stood up and walked to a locked file cabinet. Pulled out a sealed envelope. Handed it to me. Rick did this to my daughter's fiancé. 4 years ago. Took tools, claimed ownership, even went around saying the guy was unstable. Spread it around the neighborhood. Cost him a job. I opened the envelope. Inside was a copy of a handwritten note that said, Don't come back. I'll say you threatened me. Same handwriting as the note on my door. I asked Danvers, What did your daughter's fiancé do? Danvers stared at me. Nothing. He moved. I looked him in the eye. I'm not moving. He nodded slowly, like he was waiting for me to say that. Then he leaned in. There's something you should know. Rick's got a record. Minor stuff, harassment, disorderly conduct, a restraining order back in Ohio. He covers it well, but it's there. He doesn't like to be challenged. I left with the envelope. My hands were sweating the whole walk back. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark with all the files spread across the kitchen table. And for the first time, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I started collecting. Every photo. Every receipt. Every shred of proof. I printed timestamps from our security cam that showed Rick coming and going with my stuff. I took fresh photos of each tool, placed next to the engraved socket or any old picture I had showing it in my garage. I even found a video from last Thanksgiving where I was using the drill to hang lights, clear as day. I backed it all up on a thumb drive. Labeled it with tape, Rick/evidence. Then I called a lawyer. His name was Brian. Small office on the south side. Said he handled property disputes and neighbor harassment stuff all the time. He listened, didn't flinch, didn't act like I was overreacting. When I told him about the folder in Rick's basement, Brian's face got serious. You realize this could turn into a restraining order case, he said. Possibly harassment, depending on how far it's gone. I asked if I could press charges. He shrugged. Could try. But it'll be hard without admitting how you got into his basement. We go that route, and you're opening yourself up to charges too. I left the office feeling stuck. Again. Even with proof, even with a creepy basement folder, I was still being told to play it safe. But I wasn't going to play it safe anymore. That week, Rick started showing up more. Standing in his front yard when I got home. Watching.
Not saying anything. Just there.
One time, I came home and found him walking down my driveway. He waved like nothing was wrong. Just said, Didn't know if your trash was out. My wife started to notice. Why's he always looking over here? She asked. What's he want? I didn't tell her everything. I just said, He's pushing. One night I tested something. I left my garage light on and placed an old broken power drill, one that looked like the good one Rick had taken, right on the workbench. Door closed but unlocked. Then I waited. At 2:14 a.m., the motion sensor alert hit my phone. I watched live on the app as someone opened the garage door and stepped inside. Hoodie, gloves. Couldn't see the face. But the guy knew exactly what he was doing. Went straight for the bench. Except this time, I had rigged the fake drill with a die pack from an old bait-and-switch prank kit my brother had sent years ago. When he grabbed the drill, it went off, bright blue powder everywhere. You could see him flinch and stumble back out of frame. I filed the footage with Brian the next morning. Still didn't go to the cops. Not yet. But now I had him. On camera. In my garage. Middle of the night. Stealing. And covered in blue. Rick didn't come out the next morning. Not to get his paper, not to start his truck, not even to pace around the yard like he usually did. But I knew he'd seen it. The dye. That powder stains deep, skin, clothes, even under fingernails. I imagined him in his bathroom mirror, scrubbing like hell, wondering how I knew. By noon, I got another note. No envelope this time. Just a folded piece of paper shoved through the slot in my door. All it said was, "You want war?
Fine.
Just remember your wife leaves for work before sunrise." That was it. That was the moment everything changed. I scanned it, logged the timestamp, called Brian, then drove straight to Danber's place with the note still in my hand. I didn't care that it was a Saturday or that he probably had better things to do. He read it, didn't say a word, then stood up and walked to his kitchen drawer, pulled out a burner phone, and handed it to me. "Call this number," he said. "Say exactly what I wrote down on that pad. Then hang up. Don't answer any questions. Just wait." I did exactly that. 2 nights later, at 4:12 a.m., 3 unmarked cars rolled up to Rick's house. No sirens. Just doors opening and heavy boots. I watched through the blinds as 2 men in dark jackets walked up to his door and knocked.
Come. Slow.
They weren't cops. They didn't look like anything official. But Rick opened that door and froze. They showed him something. Paper, maybe a badge. I couldn't see. But he didn't argue. He stepped outside in nothing but sweatpants and followed them to one of the cars. Then they drove off. Not a word since. No calls. No notes. No more standing in the yard. The lights at his place stay off most nights now. Mail's piling up. Trash cans still full from last week. My wife asked if he went out of town. I just said, maybe. But 2 days ago, I noticed something. My socket set. The engraved one? It was sitting on my front porch. Wiped clean. Case closed. No note this time. Just the tools. Right where they belonged. I didn't tell my wife everything. Not about the folder, not about the phone call, and not about who those men were. She just thinks Rick moved. And maybe that's for the best. Because the truth is, I'm still not sure where the line is between protecting what's yours and becoming someone else entirely. But sometimes, on quiet mornings when I see the tools back in their place, I wonder if I got justice, or if I just finally scared someone worse than me.